Do you need your weekly comedy fix? Relax while we visit the sitcoms you love, the jokes you remember, the characters you will never forget, and the stars that bring them to you. Sit back. It's the Laugh Track with Jerry Stroud.
This has to be a really interesting time for you because, right off the bat, let's mention it. Let's plug it. You are out with your new, do you call it a book or do you call it more of like a package deal? True Heart Initiative.
Listen, look at this. Do you see all this? I call it a book.
I know it's a real book. I'm saying, is it more than a book?
Yeah, no, it isn't. I'm just being, listen, you got me late at night. I'm a New Yorker now.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I call it a book set. It's a book and a deck set. That's what I call it.
Is it, how is it promoting this thing? I've been thinking for months during, let's timestamp this. We're in the middle of a freaking pandemic here. People who are stuck, releasing albums, releasing books, releasing whatever they've been doing that they've been working on for maybe months or years. And now all of a sudden they have to do it when nobody wants to go to the store. Nobody wants to leave their house. How's it been for you?
It's bizarre trying to promote a book during a pandemic as well as an election. It's very bizarre trying to promote it, but I guess I'm happy it didn't come out March 15th.
I guess so.
I mean, that's how I look at it. But also, I think you got to roll with whatever's happening. And in the end, and again, the focus of this is going to be on acting. But listen, the book is about me using these cards to therapize myself over the course of my life. And I wrote the book because I think it can be helpful to other people to use them to self-soothe, which is something a lot of us were not taught, right? Or we weren't taught enough of. Our parents all did the best they could, but you know what I'm saying, or most tried. Anyway, my point is, it's not so much for me an occult woo-woo craft thing at all. It's something I've been into since I was a kid, and it's literally, like I say on the back of the box, a shrink in a box, a therapist in a box, a spiritual Xanax, because Carl Jung used tarot cards with his patients. So there is nothing occulty necessarily about them. The magic in them it's just cardboard cards. You know what I'm saying, sir? But the magic is in what how it viscerally hits your subconscious and what it reveals that you are unconsciously doing and can help one shift patterns. So frankly, while it's a weird time to promote a book, I personally think it's not a bad time for people to explore any way they can help themselves and calm themselves down in today's weird. And to move themselves forward. Like I use tarot cards to help show patterns that are maybe holding me back, or like sometimes we want things that are not good for us, correct? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? People, places, things that aren't good for us. So that's what I kind of use this to discern, and they work great in tandem with therapy. Or if you don't want to go to a therapist or can't afford it, $30, get yourself a book and a set, and then I think my essays are kind of a bonus. So I think it's a slower burn when you're promoting a book during this kind of time. But, I think people are finding out about it, and it's super neat.
They have time to explore it now, and they have the need to explore it more than ever.
That's right. And people are reading books and stuff like that and doing puzzles they never did before. So, for me, I'm a lifelong avid reader. It is a dream come true to be an author. And, that's what I got there. Now I'm working on scripts, by the way, which is, obviously a natural progression. And as an actor and as an artist who want to create my own content. In fact, this is something I said to my stepmother in 8th grade. I came home from the school. It's this all-white school in upstate New York, kindergarten through 12th grade, all white. Horrible, horrible time. And I tried to start a theater company there, and we were going to do The Miracle Worker, and they were like, you have to be the servant girl. And I was like, they're blind.
Wow.
Can I just be one of the blind girls? Like, they're blind. They won't know I'm black. Right? So they're like, no. And I was like, okay, then I'm out of this theater group. And I went home to my stepmom and I said, I guess I'm gonna have to write my own thing. So I think it's just interesting that decades later, I'm like, yeah, now's the time to be writing, not just my own things, but things I love writing, to be the creator as opposed to the, in the end, actors are a bit of a pawn on a chessboard, so rather than the grandmaster. And I kind of like being the grandmaster.
Why not? Why not? You've earned it, certainly. Look, people know you for so many different things because you've had such a diverse career. And we want to talk about a bunch of them. What do you think people know you best for at this point? Because so many of your things have become cult classics.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I thought sometimes I see people who, in their bio, it'll be like the person from that thing, and I was like, oh, wow, it hit me that I actually have these characters that people know the name of, like they know the name Rochelle from The Craft. They know the name Mona from Half and Half. They know the name Mary Jane from Half Baked. And the weirdos know Mel from Nowhere, but that's a smaller Sundance movie, but very culty. So I kind of went, wow, that's, listen, I mean, I feel like I'm at an age where I was entitled to pat myself on the back a little bit for going, oh, wow, those are 3 characters that I get called constantly on the street. Called Mary Jane or so-and-so or so-and-so. So I don't know, maybe those that I mentioned, but you just never know. Like my friend Cree Summer last night literally sent me scenes from a 2000 movie, the year 2000 movie I did with Dominique Swain and Mia Kirshner called New Best Friend. And I was like, I forgot. And Taye Diggs. I was like, I forgot about that movie, which was actually the last movie that I made a conscious choice after that movie. I was like, I got to stop playing the kids. I still could. It was like college role, but I was like, and I could still play it after that. But I thought, I got to stop playing the kids now.
just for your own personal evolution. Yeah.
Yeah, sure but honestly, I liked playing high school or college. For one, I looked young. That's the truth. I looked that age. In half those movies I'm in, I don't even look the oldest. And I certainly was. But I certainly don't look at it in every movie. That's a terrible thing to say, I guess, but it's a little true. It was an odd thing as an actor to slice years off your age, you know what I mean? But yet at the same time, that's what every actor does. And I think I had a lot of issues from high school and college to work out, and it's kind of luxurious to get to play those in characters. And really, the thing about being an actor is you've got that one-liner on the tip of your tongue. The line is there for you that you don't think of in real life. You walk away and you're mad, and then later that night you come up with a one-liner. But if you're an actor, it all works the way you want it to in the scene.
Right. Yeah, you get alternate lives, I guess. You get to
because doing that scene in The Craft, I was like, oh my goodness, in that same school I told you about in upstate New York, I mean, I had a kindergartner call me the N-word, and so that's who I wanted to punt kick. But obviously it's not the kid, it's the parents at that point. And to be able to play those scenes, I'm sure they were actually cathartic in a certain way to get back at the racists, right?
That's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, you've experienced so much and been in such a unique position in your career, and like we're here obviously to talk about TV comedy. That's what this show is about, and Half and Half is such a cool part of sitcom history, I think, and something that people are getting to relive again now that it's on Netflix and everything. But I mean, just everything you've done, The Craft, you continue to kind of fight the battles of kind of the equality or lack thereof of the way that your name has been promoted alongside your co-stars. And, it's really amazing that is still something that you have to fight.
Well, that sort of hit me too. First of all, I started speaking up because I was like, I'm a grown up now. Can't nobody tell me I don't know what I'm talking about or to be quiet. They can't say you're too young. You don't know. No, I'm now grown up and I can say this. And honestly, I don't do it just for me, right? Because when I was a kid and I would see movies and you go, who's that? It's like the black one. They didn't even have a name, just the black person if they were in the movie, even in the movie. Or open a textbook and you see a statue and it just says dancing woman instead of maybe the goddess she was, right? Or the white, whatever her name was. So it's about not being erased is what I realized, because I don't expect a journalist or reporter to know my name, but I do expect if they're going to put a picture up of the 4 girls from The Craft, of which I am one, they don't skip over my goddamn name and go to someone 8th on the call sheet. That is erasing me when I'm literally in the picture you are showing. So I fight for the people coming up as well. You know, I've had a lot of young Black actresses send me messages that they are being treated the same, or X, Y, or Z, or certain things I went through, you know, like not being included in the craft publicity junket. That just wouldn't happen today. You wouldn't exclude one of the leads, would you? You just wouldn't, especially the minority one, without Twitter setting you on fire. So I guess it's not that I'm living in the past at all. And I think people can tell when they do interviews with me, like, I'm not bitter about it, but I am vocal about it. There's a difference, you know? Mm-hmm. And I speak up about the conventions too, because that is a pretty homogenous world. And in that particular instance, when I mouthed off, I didn't think anyone read my tweets, first of all. Like, you just don't assume anyone's looking at your bullshit online. But I'd also been trying to get into that convention for months and months and months. And after they'd announced everybody, and I was like, hey, now you've got everybody. What about me? And they were like, And I said, well, we all haven't been together since 1996. So this would be the first reunion you'd have of all the, you know, together. We still not. And I just thought, okay, now you're pissing me off. Now you're turning down money, because everything in America runs on money, and you're actually turning down money. So now you're making me mad, because now I got to look at what might else be your motivation. Correct? So anyway, all worked out. I spoke up. I hope it encouraged other young and old people to speak up, and everybody made, including the convention owner, 4 times as much. So there's that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, you got to love.
Oh, wait, shout out to all the white bearded guys who came through my line at that particular con to say, I'm here to support you. Hey, man, thank you. And I seriously mean that to those guys out there, because, again, I don't think so many bearded dudes were like, I listened to your Instagram as the Hair Dries Theater series. And I was like, you guys are killing me. But it means a lot that these people recognize that my character, Rochelle, is a main character and just as important as the other chicks.
Yeah, absolutely. Another character you mentioned, I want to talk about it because this played an important role in at least one particular moment of my life.
I'm guessing which movie, but carry on.
Yeah. Well, not in the way you think. I'm talking about Half Baked, of course. Now, I'm going to set the scene for you because I know the significance of this movie. Now, I had forgotten that Half Baked came out, I believe, the same weekend as Titanic.
Did it?
I think, you know, I got to double check.
Clue.
This was a Valentine's Day weekend. That I remember very well, and here's why. I was in college at the time, and it was just me and my one buddy Mark were hanging out. We had nothing to do. Neither of us had girlfriends. Neither of us had dates. We're like, it's Valentine's Day weekend. We got nowhere else to go except the movies. So we went to the movies. We went to see Half Baked. And that theater, and I'm telling you, this is Titanic Valentine's Day weekend. That theater was packed, 100% guys.
Different crowds. I'm going to say different crowds. You know?
But yeah, lonely ass guys. It was like this moment of catharsis of, yeah, this is, you know, like.
No, listen, at a certain point in my life, I feel like I could go anywhere in the world and be offered a joint. It was true. I'd be like, in Europe, and they're like, Mary Jane.
And I'm not even a user, so to speak, never have been, but just it wasn't.
I have no problem with some medicinal marijuana, sir.
I do not.
Which we did not smoke on set. Everyone's like, we get as high on set. No, I'm not saying there aren't actors who aren't stoned on set, but the truth is, and I can love some medicinal, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not gonna go to work and forget my lines or have red eyes or whatever, right? Like, that's not cool. So no, it was fake weed on set.
It was a hilarious movie with or without the weed humor. I think it's a classic.
It's really dumb, but it's really funny, actually. Like the opening scene, I can't believe how young those kids look. Like the opening stoner scene, I was actually like, oh my God, they look like babies. Like, but no, it's a pretty fun movie to be in. And I'm sure, like everyone else, even I don't recognize Dave anymore. He's so pumped and muscular now. I'm like, oh my God, he was such a little, Dave back then. And now he's so worked out.
Did you know? I mean, I don't know how close you are or were with Dave, but like, did you have any sort of inkling that this guy would, eventually over the course of decades become like one of the most respected comedians in the
Yes,
game.
because I like to work with big, those kind of guys before they hit it big, having starred in CB4 with Chris Rock. That was one of my first movies. So yeah, I knew Chris Rock was going to be huge. I mean, I didn't necessarily think off CB4, but I knew he would be huge. And Dave Chappelle, yeah, for sure. He's a very talented cat. I love how astute and political his humor has become as well. He's not just weed humor at all. He's a very smart guy. So, and he was smart enough to have a life and a family outside of Hollywood. I've always, even back then, his family lived in, I don't know, somewhere in the Midwest, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think what we've established right now is that you are directly responsible for success of a lot of the great
Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, obviously.
No. Who's next?
Not at all, but I love that I got to play Mary Jane. I mean, that's kind of an iconic name for weed, right? And so again, it tickles me to this day. Even people are like, Mary Jane. And I forget that I was Mary Jane. And I'm like, no, what? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm Mary Jane. Yeah, that's right. I am Mary Jane.
Unbelievable. Now,
I can't believe no weed company has me sponsoring their products, frankly. I'm Mary Jane.
Absolutely. I mean, forget about this tarot card stuff. Like, why? You need to get into at least the CBD market. Like,
I probably do, actually. But like I said, I stand by what I said with the tarot. Like, CBD is a soothing thing. People do to make themselves feel better. So is tarot. So are tarot cards. You can use them to, like I said, comfort yourself and kind of figure out what's going on in your life. And I'm always sort of looking for clarity,
Yeah. Hey, everyone has their own path.
Exactly.
My little bit of that's the only wisdom I'm going to be providing on this show this week. I want to talk about half and half, of course. That's what we're here to talk about. What was your experience before that? I know you'd done some sitcom work. You'd been on The Cosby Show. You'd been on Fresh Prince. What was your experience and comfort level with performing on that stage in front of a studio audience?
Honestly, my experience with sitcoms before that was like sporadic at best. I mean, the first thing I ever did was a movie too. I wasn't like, I've been doing theater for 20 million years. Because sitcom is more akin to doing live theater with the audience, or depending on how over the top it is, it's commedia dell'arte. I mean, I have a theater background, by the way. I'm just saying one of the first things I booked was a film. So and I mostly my career, for at least the first bunch of years, I did do TV, but it was more film and film shot on film, actual film. So when I got half and half, or at least when I got the script for it, and I'd always been a little intimidated by sitcoms, to be honest. I don't know why, because I think I have a sense of humor, like I would have thought it would be a no-brainer, but I was always like, oh, it seems like so much pressure, because comedy is tough, man. Comedy is walking a tightrope wire. But when I got the script, I went, oh, I have a sister who's younger and got all the attention. I got a neighbor downstairs who's got a crush on. It's very similar to my own life. And I didn't know at that time that it was originally a pilot written for Janine Garofalo, and it sat on the shelf for a few years. And then Yvette Lee Bowser, the half and half showrunner who had done Living Single, among many other shows, she decided to do it. And I think part of why I was the right choice and the right fit for that is she didn't really change it. She said it's the exact same pilot as it was for Janine Garofalo, right? We're not, or the original one. We're not changing it. We're not making it different, because she grew up kind of a little bit like I did, in the sense of I'm not a Southern girl, right? So I don't have Southern Black colloquialisms. I'm a Northern girl, and just kind of a modern person. So I could see why I was actually a good fit, and I'm awkward and weird too. So, because that's what actually, when I was coming out with the tarot book, I was like, oh God, my people are going to think I'm so weird. And then I went, they already think you're weird. So ain't nothing different than yesterday. That's the truth. Also, I'm comfortable with who I am, with my awkwardness and my weirdness. So, I think for me, it took me a minute to kind of get into the groove, because, I just didn't have the experience that other actors on that show had with sitcom. We had some sitcom veterans on there. Luckily, they were all very kind, You know, it was a really good group. Essence Atkins had been doing sitcoms forever and a day, and Tom Hopkins and Valerie Pettiford, Big Dee Dee is amazing. So luckily the mothers were generous and weren't, you know, there's a certain kind of actor who's going to go out of their way to sabotage you, right? There just is, and take the shine. And they were, obviously they loved the shine, but they were willing to share their knowledge with me. And then I kind of just realized too that one thing that made me uptight in the beginning was I thought, oh, I don't really have the funny lines, you know, like I'm funny. Why? But then I went, oh, okay. It's kind of like a sitcom. There's that one grounded person in reality and all the craziness around them, you know? So like any classic sitcom, there's that one person who's more. So I did have funny lines, but I kind of thought like, I'm funny. I want to be funnier. I want to say funny stuff.
Yeah,
but it also, you realize with sitcom comedy, a lot of it is, it's literally called sitcom, situational comedy. So you have to learn to trust. And also, unlike films where they're like, yo, say whatever you want. Oh, you want to change that line? Great. Yeah. Make it your own. Make it your own is a big thing, or that was. And with sitcoms, it has to be verbatim. Like literally, I think I said one line, like I said, oh, my aunt is coming. And they were like, you have to say aunt. And I was like, what? I don't even know. I can't even hear the difference. Or, you know, there's just a certain East Coast things that I would say. And so everything was so specific and corporate in a way, in a different way. Because when you're doing a film, especially like a lot of the indie films I did, it's, you know, anarchy, shooting a movie. And this is part of network television. So big corporate sponsors. It was all a lot for me to get used to. And also, not to be a downer, but, you know, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, you know, and I'm saying this because most people will experience this in their life. You get this great thing. Oh, a sitcom. I'm number one on the call sheet. And at that point in history, not too many Black women can say they were number one on the call sheet. Now that's changed. But I'm saying at that time, I was probably one of 10 women who could say I'm number one on the call sheet of my own show, along with an ensemble cast. But my father was also dying of cancer. So I was flying back and forth every weekend. You know, during the first season, it was a lot. Yeah. There's a lot to deal with, is what I'm going to say, which is probably why Mona's weight went up, because I ate my way through my grief.
Okay, guys, quick time out here from this fantastic conversation. I'm having a lot of fun, but let's talk about something that is super important. A great organization, No Kid Hungry, is a campaign that is helping kids remain fed each and every day, even when school is not in session. So take a listen to this message and get to know No Kid Hungry.
Because of the coronavirus, schools have closed nationwide, and kids in need are missing nearly 34 million school meals every day. For many, it's the only healthy food they might get in a given day. No Kid Hungry has a plan to feed these kids, but they need your help. Donate now at nokidhungry.org to help feed America's children during this crisis and in the months to come. That's nokidhungry.org. Thanks.
It's kind of an interesting parallel looking back, because it's you going through real life stuff, and the show was just so grounded in real life stuff. And, you know, I had no idea that there was sort of that connective tissue between Living Single and this show, but that was really what came to mind when I went back and started watching episodes of the show, is that it feels like Living Single, and it feels like they're really trying to prioritize and push a lot of the same things, just sort of the everyday life of women your age, you know, at home and in the workplace. And
regardless of ethnic background.
Yes.
You know, because we're all the same, whether you're Armenian or African American or Asian American, it doesn't matter. We're all just humans, right? And so I kind of love that Yvette Lee Bowser said to us, I'm never going to make you go dance, quote unquote, to go get the mail. And by that, she means there was a period in sitcomville where Black people especially wore super bright colorful clothes and were like, hey, the mail, yo, and danced and did a bit, you know, it was fine. It was just of the time, but it was a little over the top. And I like that what she wanted was a more realistic, realism, you know, a take on it. And also, like I said, being an actor affords you the ability to go through some of your own things for a character. And because I had a sister, like I said, who, she's not like Dee Dee at all, but let's just for this purpose say I have a younger sister who ... So it was sort of like working out those issues too, to get to play those kind of scenes with a sister, you know. So it's just fun all around, to be honest. We had some really great guest stars on too, like Giancarlo Esposito is on, and I'm so in awe of his talent. So I was, just delighted that we had just some Diane Carroll, these beautiful, fabulous actors, Lou Gossett Jr., just amazing actors, young and old, that we had on there.
Yeah. And the thing that struck me about the show as well, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, the fact that just like Living Single, it's a sitcom and there's humor and there's jokes, but the actual situations, I think we're kind of touching on it already, they're real. There was no wacky plots. There was no, trying to break into an office to, that classic sitcom thing where you're trying to erase a voicemail so your boss doesn't hear it. Like, you're just, the plots.
Well, we definitely had some really silly plots. Me and Alec Mappa still trade lines back and forth, but I hear what you're saying, because we were talking about, even amongst the comedy, there was a girl and her mother and her dynamic, for my character at least, a girl and her dynamic with her father, who she didn't grow up with or spend as much time with, who seems to favor her other sister. Those are all real things. If you're part of a family, your parents do have a favorite. And if it's not you, people got to see that kind of played out. And then those are real, true dynamics that go on, and women friendships and all of that. So I did kind of listen, I'd love to do some crazy sci-fi thing too, but I love doing that and something that was grounded in reality, because I feel like I was able to hook into it easier, I think, than if it had just been a slapdash thing. But I also learned I love physical comedy on that. So I think I would like to do an over-the-top thing too, because throwing myself around set, that especially the first year when I didn't know how to do it correctly, I was so black and blue on the weekends from slamming myself into doors or tripping or falling, like literally huge black and blue marks everywhere. And then finally I was like, let me learn how to do this a little better.
People don't realize, I think people don't realize that, even going back to guys like Chevy Chase or, Jack Tripper, Three's Company, like some of these people, like throughout the course of TV history, were just beating the crap out of themselves.
But you really are, by the way, because I remember that those were not Chevy at all. He's not one of my idols, by the way, but a talented guy, but an asshole, right? But there are other people who, like Gilda Radner, right? And everyone and John Belushi, those people who just wing themselves all over set. That is who I was trying to emulate. Sometimes I remember flying backwards going, okay, this is what Gilda did. And I'll just try to land without hurting myself. And in fact, I think it wasn't until the second season that little Dee Dee had to do, Essence's character had to slip off the couch. And the next day for the rehearsal, they had a stunt coordinator. And I went to the AD and I was like, wait, I don't understand. I literally throw myself and my back out every week. No one's ever offered me a stunt coordinator. She's literally slipping off the couch, which was a very little Dee Dee thing to get a stunt coordinator for that, right? But the AD goes, oh, you just have to ask. And I was like, how am I supposed to know? But it's fine.
You earned your strength.
I learned by doing it the hard way. And then I think I did try to use one. I was like, get that out of the way. Although pads are helpful. The pads are the things on the ground, so you can at least fall on something soft, which I hadn't been doing.
Another thing that struck me about the show, I watched some of the pilot just last night.
Oh, it's so rickety, the pilot. I'm amazed it got picked up, frankly, but I love it. But I'm like, wow.
but it's an uphill battle because, and it struck me, it's been so long since I've seen a show that is just straight up introducing a normal set of new characters, because so many shows are reboots or some sort of continuations of something else or a different world or a different storyline or something. This was just straight up, this is all these characters, and that opening scene and just sort of that opening first half of the episode, you kind of get to meet everyone, figure out the dynamics. And it's from scratch, so that's kind of
it is.
That's an impressive.
It is. No,
challenge.
It's kind of the last of. I mean, who knows what'll happen if your podcast about sitcoms? You can tell me, but after that, sitcoms kind of became absorbed into the single camera genre more, which is actually, in a sense, single camera maybe even more my speed as an actor, because I kind of like dry one-liners. I feel like in the movies that I did, I was usually the comedic relief, but only because I said that dryly, and made a boring line funny. But yeah, I wonder what'll happen because we have one or two or a couple 4-camera sitcoms on now. That's it. I wonder if they'll come back or not. There is something very antiquated in 1950s about them when you think about it, with the laugh track, and yet at the same time, people love them.
Yeah.
I'm
They're
going to
never
admit
gonna go
I
away.
wasn't the biggest sitcom watcher before I booked Half and Half, and then I became one, just because I wanted to learn more and really began to appreciate the genre that it is, because again, it's fine wire timing, because you're in front of a live audience, and it's not single camera where, okay, cut, do it again, no audience. It's your live audience isn't going to listen to you do that line more than 3 is the max. If you have to shoot the line the third time, you're gone after that. So you have to kind of nail it.
Did you get to feel more comfortable and more empowered kind of going in front of that audience and doing that over the course of the show?
Yeah, I'm a ham. Yeah, I love a live audience. I remember one time a camera guy was like, wow, the run through was kind of like whatever, but you're on fire tonight. And I was like, yeah, I'm a ham. We have a live audience here. The stakes are really high.
Damn right.
I'm going to kick it out. But I think, like most performers, the truth is we're all pretty nervous. You're behind the flats and you're catching your breath and you're hoping you remember your lines, and but that's I think if you lose that bit of excitement, right, like nervous, I'm not saying you should be super nervous because then you'll blow the thing, but like
Right.
a little bit of nerves, if you can utilize them, just is part of that electric thing of being a performer.
That's what they say. Once you're not nervous anymore, it's time to find something else to do.
It's a little true. I mean, it's not fun leading a nervous life, which is why it was nice to like write a book and, have a little calmness. But I did shoot a couple movies this last year before the pandemic, and I had a few more things lined up that went away because of the pandemic. So, it's kind of fun to be acting again and focusing a little more back on that. But like I said, scripts are part of my main focus too, and directing. I do a lot of like little videos for my Instagram stories, and someone asked why, and I said, well, it's for your entertainment, but not really. It's actually practice for me. It's all honing my editing chops and my eye for shots, and it's just, that's what I think people who want to be artists should take in. Like, I feel like everything I do is part of my art. So even if it's something for Instagram stories, I'm thinking long term, like, oh, okay, how can I challenge myself to cut this differently, or what shots I'm choosing, or it's all art.
Yeah, and now's the time. I mean, people say if you're not using the extra time now to better yourself in some way, then you're wasting a whole lot of time. So
no, it's true. Although, I mean, I did get stuff done during this pandemic, but like I get a lot of people were really freaked out and sort of paralyzed, right? And couldn't do anything. I know a lot of my millennial friends, especially, were, and finally, I think I said to one of them, because they were like, it's not fair. And I finally was like, who told you life was fair? Like, it's not actually fair. So I think also because I'm Black American, I was like, oh, okay, this is what it is now. Huh. Not what I would have chosen, but how can I make the best out of it? And that means it's okay to do nothing. Absolutely nothing some days. Maybe that is making the best out of it, right? But I have sewn jackets. I like to sew 18th century clothing. I don't know why. So like I've sewn jackets. I'm working on scripts. I'm actually working on a script with Alec Mapa, who played Adam on Half and Half, the Asian guy in The Office. We're friends. We actually, he was ahead of me, but we were at NYU around the same time. So that we ended up randomly being on the same show was kind of great.
That's funny. I just want to tell you, if you're ever in a position in life to do dating profiles, I sew 18th century jackets is the perfect opening line.
Is it? I don't think it is. I know, it's like the nerdiest hobby ever, but see, I don't care. That's my thing. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't care. But I think that's a good attitude to have. It's very like, what's that book, The 4 Agreements, right? It's like, don't take things personally. If someone else says, oh, your hobby's so terrible and nerdy, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Look, you mentioned, and as part of our tradition on this show, we like to take an episode of our guest choice of the show that they were a part of, or one of the projects they were a part of, and really talk about it a little bit because it's near and dear to their heart. And what you chose was a couple of episodes, a two-parter from season 3 of Half and Half. And I'm a horrible host. I failed to document the name of these episodes, but
I don't know the names either at all.
It was the middle of the third season, and this was a pair of episodes centered around essentially like a talent competition that your record label was holding, and it involved guest secret judges who ended up being Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis.
Those are pretty good secret guest judges, right?
It was so much fun to watch this two-parter and to watch these guys be themselves, and for those who may not remember the influence that these guys had, I mean, these guys own
tell them
music.
some of the stuff they produce. They're also coming out with their own album, but tell them.
Oh my goodness. I mean, most prominently Janet Jackson. I mean, they're responsible for
exactly, and a million other great things. So I picked those episodes. There are better Mona episodes, frankly, with like deeper storylines and all of that. But like those were really fun for me because it was actually kind of like a real contest we were having. I played a record executive on the show Delicious Records, maybe. I don't know. I think that's what the record place was called. Anyway, we had kind of a real contest. So those people who's were performing were real musicians and real people who'd submitted themselves, and not to mention they got seen by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Right?
That's what I wanted to ask. This was such a unique setup because the first episode played out like a normal episode of Half and Half. It was kind of the thing where they were going to fall through as the special guests, and then it was kind of a scramble to convince them to actually be in the fold and to show up and to do this thing. And so just kind of a sitcom-y plot, which was fun, entertaining, and it got us to the second episode. And a lot of that second episode, it played out and was even filmed like an actual reality competition episode. So, I mean, this was legit, you're saying?
Yeah, no, it was actually, because the scenes in the second episode with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, I think I'm feeling, I mean, like I said earlier, there's no ad-libbing on a sitcom, but I feel like that might've been the one moment where we got to just, me and those guys, have a conversation that they recorded as if we were really judging, a real contest. And I think I also picked that because I learned a bit too, just about business and marketing. Like the person I wanted was some hippy dippy, cute little chick with curly hair singing alternative music, because that's what I like. And anyway, they, kind of explained why the people they chose to win the contest, who did win it, were the right choice. And I was like, I get it. I get it. It's also because, like I said earlier about everything, it's dollars and cents, right? Yeah. So they're saying this is the group that will sell. That's adorable, but this will sell.
Yeah.
So, I learned some business stuff as well. And it was just great to, hang out with titans of industry like that, because I can't sing. I'm not musical or anything like that. And, it was just fun to explore that side of a character and play those things, and that's also indicative of some of the fun we had on the show. Like I was saying earlier, with the different guest stars, we had some really great music acts come through. We had some spectacular people like that who randomly showed up, and then like half the survivors, I think because CBS, was all tied with us. So, the other thing that's interesting is about Happy Half that you may or may not know is we're one of the first shows, and I don't think it's a badge of honor, though, and it's studied in a college course, because we're one of the first shows that incorporated a product. And I remember thinking, this is so weird, because Alec Mappa's character is holding up a bar of Olay soap going, Olay for Olay. And I remember actually thinking, okay, so am I getting paid extra this week? Because obviously there's some money going on. And the answer was no, Rachel. And you didn't even get a bar of soap. But I was like cognizant of like, okay, we're doing a commercial. this is weird because I don't know if it's a great product, but I'm saying, like, what do I know? And then on top of it, I'm not getting paid. There is somebody has a garage full of Olay products from that production to this day, I'm sure. But that became de rigueur and the norm after that. But it was a weird thing. It was also interesting, by the way, being on CW compared to CBS. And at the time, I remember being on the fence about being on Black Night, quote unquote, because it was a block of Black comedies as opposed to these comedies are interspersed throughout the week, just shows,
Right.
In retrospect, I think it's probably a good thing because, Black people knew, well, there's one night at least that this is before the renaissance of Black TV. There's a lot of shows on now, but I'm saying then there wasn't. And there was at least one night where you could see some sitcoms with people who look like you. So that's a good thing. But it also felt a little separate, and that's the truth, like separate but equal. It felt a little like that. That's just the way it was, And
Yeah,
of course, we paved the way for all the pretty white CW teen shows. So there's that too.
Well, look, I mean, it feels like it's a two-level thing. Like on one hand, where the show goes, that's a network decision. What the show is what you're a part of, and as you talked about before, this is a show that could appeal to anybody.
I agree, by the way, because that's again why I brought up that it was a pilot written for so and so, because it does have broad appeal. I'm never not impressed by the amount of different peoples from different cultures who've seen it or connect with it. Actually, I shot a movie in South Africa in 2007 and I was mobbed like the Beatles because the sitcom was playing there. So I was like, oh, wow. And then I got recognized in Paris because it was playing there. And you don't think about it. Honestly, I think as far as actors, I'm a fairly grounded one. I didn't really buy into all the smoke and mirrors of Hollywood. So I just kind of do my thing, do the job, and then be shocked when someone has seen it, to be honest, which I think is fine enough for me. I think, here's the thing, and it's an old adage, but success just exacerbates who you already are, So I think if you're a raging asshole before, you're an even bigger asshole once you become successful. And if you're a weird, quirky chick who's just weird, then you're still weird and quirky.
It's essentially like drinking. Drinking and success doesn't matter. It just amplifies you.
It kind of, what's funny is I'm not a drinker at all. I don't have a problem with liquor. I just don't like it. It's like poison in my system. I drink it. I feel sick. So that's like one thing I never do. But yeah, it does. It just kind of brings out, right? Like if you're a prickly person underneath it all, you're probably an angry drunk, So I don't know. I think I'm really glad that I've gotten to play a bunch of different characters over my life that resonated with a lot of people. Like I love that gay men love Rochelle too, from The Craft. They felt like they could really relate to her. And I said, really, her? And they were like, yeah, because she's the outside. She's really the one being ostracized for something that it's so unfair, and something that she has no control over. And also I love my skin tone, right? Like, so when I did The Craft, and I know we're talking more about sitcoms, but I was a little nervous about that storyline too, because I thought, did they think my blackness is a problem? Because everyone else has an issue. Like she's suicidal and she's nuts and she's burned, and I'm what? I'm a victim of racism. Sure. Of course I'm Black. Yeah, of course. What's my actual problem? Is what I remember thinking. So in the retrospect, I'm very much glad it's in there because it's obviously 2020 and it's still relevant, and it made her a full and realized character, not just an appendage to a white girl. So there's that. And once again, to bring it back to Half and Half, it was really great to be able to play a lead after years and years and years of seeing all my, Anglo peers book leads. And I couldn't audition for those parts because they were white. So it was great.
So bottom line now it's 2020. Now Half and Half is seeing a whole new audience and people are seeing you all over again in that environment. Yeah, I know you mentioned single camera comedies. If a old fashioned studio audience comedy came a calling, is that something you'd be excited about?
Yeah, I would love to. I would actually love to do another sitcom. I think I'd actually even appreciate it a little more for the art that is sitcomville. at this point. But yeah, I finished my book a while back, and now that it just released last month, and now, I mean, it's a COVID world. It's a little hard to jump back into things, but I've been taking meetings with representation and managers and agent. Like I'm like, all right, I'm ready to act. Part of why I kind of ducked out for a minute, though, was once my age was out there, they were reading me for grandma roles and roles that like no, I'm not kidding. Like the women who play my moms on things, it would be me showing up with them. And I obviously wasn't going to book them. In fact, one audition, the woman literally said, like, why are you here? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know, man. I go where they tell me. I said, but I told them I wasn't right for this. And she goes, next time, stand your ground. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna, see what else interests me right now, because I'm not ready to be a grandma on the couch. Like, have you seen me?
I'm seeing you right. Yeah. Look, I mean, and by the way, if you're going to be a grandma on the couch, I highly suggest podcasting, because you can do that pretty easily.
I will be a grandma on the couch at some point, by the way. I'm just not one yet. And I've always looked a little younger. It's catching up to me now, but I've always looked younger than I am. All natural, no nothing. I can still give expressions. So I'd like to think the right job. And maybe I would really like to do a sitcom, because as much as you can love a show like This Is Us, oh my God. Like when I remember when Campbell was doing Party of Five, it was like, Jesus Christ, could you cry a little more on set? Like it's heavy to do a drama. They were orphans. They were never not crying. And like This Is Us, they're always sad. So there is something kind of fun about just knowing that for that, like couple hours, the half an hour it's on TV, but like when the couple hours the audience is there, like you're all there for one cause, to make people giggle and laugh and maybe have a heartfelt moment while they're at it. Also, not for nothing, but a sitcom schedule is like a gift from the heavens. It's really lovely. It's, when you're on a drama, you're working 15, 18 hours a day sometimes, but 12 hours basically minimum. And sitcom's a little different schedule, and I found it delightful.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, hopefully we're opening up sooner rather than later, and then.
No, that's why I'm taking these meetings now, because I thought, well, we'll see when things open up. I don't know. I like to be safe, though, so I want everyone else to stay safe out there. Whatever that means to them, right? But I, for me, having to be in lockdown isn't fun. But again, I'd rather be alive. Yeah. That's my take on it.
There you go.
And yeah, you can go clean the goddamn garage out or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got time. It'll all be back one of these days. We'll be ready for it. But I want to ask you one more thing about Half and Half. And by the way, thank you so much for doing the show, because I've kept you forever. You've been here on the we've been talking.
Okay, yeah, no, I got time for one more question now.
Cool. Well, I mean, just going back to it, I like to ask, if you think back to the show, just the experience of not your favorite episode, not your favorite scene, but just from the perspective of performing and being in front of the audience, what was your favorite moment? Like, what moment popped to you as far as like the audience reacting and responding to it?
I'm gonna say the audience, we really had Mona's back, to be honest, because when you watch back the shows, you're like, everyone's shitting on Mona for like no reason, like because of her hair. So the audience very much had my characters back, which was really sweet. But I'm going to say my favorite moments, it's not so much one episode, but the evolution and the scenes with Tama Hopkins as my mom on the show, because she was fantastic. Those were, she's such a good actress too, that we're having, they're real. The scenes were grounded in reality. They're not, I'm a sitcom mother and you're a sitcom daughter. There was a little of that, of course, for Phyllis, and Big Dee. But the truth is, when we had our moments, and it wasn't just, oh, give me some grandbabies, when it wasn't that, and it was, no, Mom, I'm coming to you for help, and it was great. And I know that those scenes resonate with mothers and their children out there, because they constantly tell me that. And by the way, for everyone DMing me that you wish it was on Netflix, it's on Netflix now.
It's there.
They're still DMing, like, I'm getting DMs like, I wish it was on Netflix or Hulu. And I'm like, it is. But yeah, I think the scenes with the mom, because I'm from a divorced family, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's always great to be able to play out some of those dynamics. And, it's sitcom land, so everything's perfect. Even if if the A story is a conflict between you and little Dee Dee, it's going to be amazing and all fine by the end of the episode, unless it's a two-parter. But that if there's conflict, it's going to have resolution. And we don't often know that in real life. So there is something great and comforting about a sitcom because it plays out the way we want things to, but they rarely do.
Absolutely. But and that's why we need them. That's why we need to be able to at least watch them. It gives us hope. Look, let's just talk about the book one more time. True Heart Initiative, Tarot. Let's keep it real. You just taught me how to pronounce tarot. So I need to read this thing.
What I want to just say is for the people who love half and half, and you're not interested in tarot, or maybe you're worried about it because you were told it's out of alignment with Christ consciousness. It's not. They're literally just cards, right? They're just cards with a lot of Bible imagery on them. There really are. There's angels. There's the Tower of Babel. There's all these things that we all did a lot of research on. But if you don't care about tarot, but it is great for self-help. That is why I've mentioned it over the course of this podcast, because anything we can do to help ourselves is so very empowering, and to calm ourselves down and to uplift ourselves. Because I look at it this way, tarot cards clear away some of the anxiety, and then you can hear God's voice louder and clearer, actually, like what your mission and missive really is, without your negative, lower self dragging you down, or your ego or your id. So there's that, but I'm dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing tarot, especially for my brown brothers and sisters, because if we look into our own history, it's part of it. It's all this stuff was where we were at before we came here. But also there is an essay about Mona, and I'm booking that part. And I talk in the essays, there's 22 of them, and I talk a lot about my acting life. Some of them are about some terrible things that I had to deal with, like death and racism and things like that. And some are about great moments and things that shifted my perspective. So you guys DM me and ask me so many questions. How about you buy my book? Hashtag support Black authors. Buy the book. And then you can help me if you have more questions after that. But at least there's I put a lot of stuff in there for you to read. So you should read it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a one of a kind story, really. Just your story up till now, which is, you're not a grandma on the couch yet. Although you are sewing 18th century jackets. So I don't know how those two things commingle, but you're not on the couch.
Well, listen, my big joke is I'm 3,000 years old. So this is just, one of my many incarnations.
Well, look, with that, Rachel, thank you so much for entertaining us, for enlightening us, for creeping us out just a little bit. But that's what we're looking for.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for having me on the podcast. And I wish you the best of everything during these pandemic days.
Yeah, man, you too. And we'll keep tabs on what you've got coming up next. But thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, yeah. By the way, the movie I have coming out is called Agnes. It's a cerebral horror film. And it is it's a very smart script. And keep an eye out for that. I play a nun. So it's like a nice grown-up character. And that's good. Yay.
Nice.
All right. Nice. Bye. Thank you for your time.
You too.
Bye.
Guys, thank you again and again and again for joining us on the Laugh Track. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you following us and sharing and spreading the word. And we want to keep the ball rolling. The Laugh Track, of course, produced by me, Jerry Strauss, with additional major league production by our maestro, Steve Prentice, our friend who does all the heavy lifting here on this show. And of course, if you want to hear more of our show, make sure you check out our website. LaughTrackPod.com is your one-stop shop for episodes old and new, as well as our free mailing list and links to all of our social media and many of the outlets where you can hear the show. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we are on Google, we're everywhere, man, and you can be too. So make sure you subscribe wherever you'd like so you can get the latest episodes as soon as they are released each and every week. Of course, social media, we're all over it, man. Instagram, we have an account that you can and should follow at Laugh Track Pod. Twitter, follow us there at Laugh Track TV. And of course, our Facebook group is growing and popping off, if you will. Is that what the kids say? You can check us out there, and please join us at facebook.com/groups/Laugh Track Pod. Until next week, I'm Jerry Strauss. For Steve Prentice, this is the Laugh Track.